Because you have to be a resident.
I got my hair cut
Oh,
for like the first time in like 6 months.
who did it?
Now I can't keep my hair like my teachers.
Yeah, I like to not be invisible.
Aw.
It'll grow out.
I got my hair cut. Yeah. Yeah, because if you can't fit it in a pony.
Yeah, your hair looks so nice. Like,
Thanks. Well,
Hello, David.
uh-huh. But no one noticed.
Hello, Mike. Mayor
Can you
Mike?
hear us? Can you hear
Yes.
us okay?
Yes.
Yep, it's all ready. Hello.
Hello.
Time's up. Hi, David. Amy on? Amy's on.
I'm here.
Amy.
Hello, Amy.
Lori on?
Hi.
Hi, Amy.
Can everybody hear me?
Oh, there you are. There's your face. Okay. Okay.
I put your water down. Oh, you got a water bottle. Okay. Good job.
Brenda,
Good job.
someone shared this document with me, so I just gave you a copy. It's over at your desk. So it's just like little hints on how.
Oh, very cool.
I already gave you one.
Did you give it to Mike?
Uh-huh. I
Yeah.
printed out multiple copies.
Cool. I love it. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
That I could include it in my council packet when it goes out.
Is Orly here?
Yeah.
Here.
Orly, roll call.
There he is.
Linda, we're live on YouTube, ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Orly, turn your video on so we can see you.
I'm doing okay.
Push the
No,
little
I'm doing
buttons.
okay.
Video. Okay, you ready? Good evening. This is council workshop special meeting. Today's Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. It's 5:30 PM and this is a hybrid meeting, city council, chamber and Zoom. We're calling this meeting to order and the purpose of this meeting is to interview applicants for an open city council seat. We have 13 applicants and we're allotting about 15 minutes per applicant. We will allow about 3 minutes for the introduction and each council member will ask one question and we allow about 2 minutes per question. So we have to kind of move pretty quickly because we I have, like I say, 13 applicants. So our first applicant is Bob Bright. He switched places with Bill Banks because Bill Banks was working. So, but he'll be here at 6 o'clock. So our first applicant is Bob Bright. Welcome, Bob. Would you introduce yourself, please, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here, introducing myself and visiting with you and expressing my interest in the council position. I moved to Cortez 2 years ago. We have a lot of family in the area. My wife is in failing health and moved close to family for that. I have to say I was pleasantly surprised moving to Cortez. And of course, I've driven through many times. Really enjoyed the community. The rec center, annual member there. It's really a pleasant community. There's a lot going for it. In terms of my experience, I have about 30 some years experience as both a planning director and a local government executive. My last job was as an executive director of a Metropolitan Council of Governments. I managed budgets in excess of $1 million and 30 plus employees myself. I understand fully what you're dealing with. I think I could be a real asset to the council. I have a good grounding in finance and auditing and such, and I think I could be a contributing team member.
Thank you. We'll begin our questions now. Amy, would you like to begin with the questioning?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll start off the first question. Do you have time? Do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with?
I have quite a bit of time right now, actually. I'm really looking for something to sink my teeth into where I can contribute to the community, be an asset to the community. I did have an abundance of time. I am retired presently. And I was my wife's caregiver. It was necessary to put her in a nursing home. She's in Mesa now. And that freed up a lot of my time. Yes. And the enthusiasm.
Thank you. David, would you like to ask a question?
I would. Do you have specific training in municipal leadership, team building skills? And if so, how will you use that training to work on the city council?
I have had that training. It's, I think my master's in urban planning would certainly be called that. And also, like I mentioned, I've been an executive director. I was an executive for over 20 years in local government. And the way I would use that is I'm a very proactive person. I like to see things happen, see things done. And I think I would use those proactive skills to help move things along and work working as part of a team, and see what the other council members' interests were and what their priorities were, and set the priorities as a group. Perhaps do some annual retreat or something like that, like most groups do. But anyway, understand what your priorities are and work in that context, using my proactive and skills. And also, I'd like to mention that I'm a very positive person. I like to see how problems can be solved, not how they can't be solved. So you can expect me to work in that context. I do feel like I have a lot of experience in city government and understand it pretty completely, from A to Z, personnel, finance, auditing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel, do you have a question?
Hi, I'm Rachel Medina. So this is kind of a controversial idea right now with local government, but how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
On social media? Well, I think we're all entitled to our rights, but I think there needs to be a balance there too. You do represent the city, and if I were a council member, I would recognize that before I did anything wild and crazy. I think, like I said, there needs to be that balance between our individual rights and freedoms as individuals and our responsibilities to the city as council members. And where that line is I think each individual is probably going to draw that in a slightly different place, but I would guess that most people are going to come down there in someplace. And I think that would be my take. I really have not taken any controversial public positions myself. I think I've been far too busy and exhausted with my life until recently to get too out there and things. But I have my opinions too. And, some of them are quite strong, and we certainly live in very challenging times, and it may get harder and harder to find that fine line. But like I said, I would feel that I did have a responsibility to the city too, to make sure that any comments on social media were measured.
Thank you. Okay, Orly, could you have your question, please?
Yes, sir. Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
I have, as a matter of fact, was watching a workshop, I think it was in July, and listened to a presentation by Ben, finance director. And it got my interest up and my concern up, and I went and spent an hour with Ben here recently, and just so I get a better understanding of some of those issues. It seems to me like there's some very important issues to be dealt with in finances and revenues and the general fund and bond payments. I mean, there's just a whole range of things, you know, and even looking out 2 or 3 years, I think there's certainly some financial concerns that need to be addressed. And as a group, policy on that, this group is really going to have to address it. I'm sure that you're very concerned about it too. But I think that's an example of me listening to one of the work sessions. Like I said, I tend to be action oriented. If I see something that piques my interest, then I tend to do something about it.
Thank you, sir. Arlena, you can have the next question.
Yeah, Bob, you mentioned that you had worked with budgets in excess of $1 million, I think that's what you said. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that experience? Maybe if there were any challenges that you were able to overcome?
Sure. Probably the biggest challenge was both personnel and budget. I worked in it was a borough in Alaska, which are kind of like a county on steroids, much more, many more powers than a county. But it was huge too. It was a vast county, probably the size of 2 Rhode Islands. And I had offices that were part of my department that were over 100 miles away. And every position in that department reported directly to me. And it was just an unworkable arrangement. So I got to work and working with the mayor. I worked directly for the mayor in that particular situation. It was a strong mayor government. And reorganized the whole department, 30-some employees, so that there was a level of management there, especially for the remote facilities. And, you know, there might be 5 or 6 employees 100 miles away, make sure they had proper management on the spot. And then I also set up meetings with all the managers that I appointed via teleconference. We didn't have this Zoom in, but we could teleconference on the phone. So we had our annual staff meetings via teleconference. It just helped things flow smoother, make sure things got done. Just better arrangement. And then in terms of budgeting, the budget there, we had suddenly got a grant from Congress for $11 million. And of course, that becomes quite a budgeting issue, you know, not in terms so much of making money. Of course, you know, we're glad to have the money from Congress. It was kind of a surprise. It was because it was like many places, you know, that we had huge dead tree issues with wildfire danger we had to deal with. But we were able, you know, I was able to take that $11 million and quickly plug it into contracts for dealing with each residential neighborhood where we had a fire hazard and to reduce the hazard. And that was a real challenge to do that quickly with that fire hazard.
Thank you. Let's see, my question is, what is your most valuable trait as a leader, a director?
I think it's that I'm proactive. I like to get things done. You know, if you were to appoint me, I think you'd see me structure any motions I made so they had an action component. So that you could see when action should occur and when things would happen. happened and reporting back to the council on that action. I do find me to be a driver. I think that's an asset. Some people sometimes just don't think that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your interview, Bill. Bob? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes,
can we clarify, do we start the time right when they start talking about themselves?
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
okay. Okay, we're wiping down the podium and we're getting ready for our next applicant. Okay, welcome. Could you introduce yourself, sir?
My name is Fred Blackburn, and I've been in Cortez about 40 years, and the western slope most of my life. I'm here to provide a choice for you guys. I thought I was probably done with my public service, but I've been very concerned with the issues that is approaching the council. And so this is kind of unexpected for me to come in and talk with you and apply for this position. What I really think my strength is I really enjoy a good group of people to work with in a teamwork approach. And I have done that mostly in the nonprofit sector. I'm not as familiar with municipality operations as I am nonprofit sectors. I bring with me a lot of the historical background of Montezuma County and Cortez. For years, I've been working on that and learning a lot about the people and settlements. So I have a pretty extensive library of knowledge on that might apply, may not. But we have it to draw from. I see multiple issues that need to be addressed, and in the next 2 years, it's not going to be fun for any commissioner or council member to have to go through. And I'm just going to address a few that I've been looking at. Just to be honest, I have not been following the city for the last few years. I think the city has done an incredible job up to this point. They've had good times, good taxes, good leadership, and a lot has been accomplished in the city. But I am concerned about where we're headed with COVID, with economics for downtown, with the continual disparities of idealism, energy costs, and just how we're going to pull out of this economically. And I think those challenges are in our face right now. So with that in mind, I did provide, I think, the council with a vita, which is a lot more than a resume. I apologize. It's good if you need to sleep at night. I'm sure Orly did real well that way. But in any case, I think I can do a lot of good just potentially in brain power in helping solve issues. I'm not worried about understanding budgets or understanding what my role is and what we model as a council. I've been through a lot of trash to get here. So in retrospect, that's great, because I understand within the community where our issues are going to arise from. And I would look forward to a good council or a good group of people. I don't care who they are to work with. So I'm going to end it there.
Thank you, sir. Amy, would you like to begin with your question?
Hello there. Do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with?
Amy, I have lots to do all the time, but I've learned that you do what you need to do. And if you're put on the council, that's part of your job, and you make time to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. David, can we have your question, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Fred, do you have specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And if so, how will you use that training to work on the city council?
Well, it's not, boy, I've had a lot of strategic planning sessions. I've had to manage different organizations. I've been the president of a couple nonprofits, the biggest of which is about, before COVID, was about $3.5 million a year. Also worked on the sanitation district. All these nonprofits, you get a lot of training and in budgetary analysis and how to work together. And in the nonprofit world, if you do that right, you really have to work hard to understand it and take whatever training you can do. That applies directly to the people that we're working with. And I have done supervision in several aspects with the Partners Program before it went defunct. I've been through 3 embezzlements in organizations. I understand how difficult that is and what it costs an organization in energy and suffering. It's a very hard thing to go through. Plus, what it does to limit what you can do financially. So I have, as far as formal training, I didn't list all that, but almost every organization that I've been in, we've had a lot of training that went along with it. Some of it's just boots on the ground training, but strategic planning sessions, how to plan for your organization, how to work it out together, all that kind of stuff I understand. And I think that's what interests me most in the period we're coming up to. So I don't know if I answered that well, David, but yeah, I'm comfortable with it. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
So how do you personally feel council members should conduct themselves on social media? Do you have an opinion on
Oh, I have a big opinion.
it?
I don't use social media at all. It's the biggest place that you can have misunderstandings, that you can put any comment that you want to do. I check, my kids are all on it, but I think it's just a disaster waiting to happen. And misinterpretation, and I just don't like it.
Okay, thank you. Orly?
Yeah, have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
No, I watched you a lot, Lucero. And they're probably gonna have to drag you out of here. But yeah, yes, but not a lot, not in the last 2 years. I watched a lot of the decision making for many years and was involved in processes with that. Yes, I understand it, but the answer is no, I really have not spent a lot of time in the last couple of years doing watching council sessions. So realizing that, I have a lot of catch up to do. I see a lot of what you have to do, and I'm sure that's just a small portion of what's in the hopper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Erlina?
Fred, you mentioned that you weren't worried about understanding budgets. So I'm curious to know what your experience has been with large budgets.
As a board member and as a president of a board and your whole reason as a board member is fiscal responsibility for your organization. So how to read a budget, you better learn how to do real quickly. But in more depth, tracking embezzlements, forensic embezzlement, I've gone through 3 of them. And trying to salvage 2 of those organizations, I was able to help salvage. The 3rd, I was not. It was too far gone. That included federal, in one case, federal justice grants. And so I kind of know what to look for. And I'm sure the council's main responsibility is oversight for that. I won't be here picking my nose when we're looking at it. I know what I'm looking at.
Thank you. What is your most valuable trait as a leader, Fred?
I'm hard-headed as hell. No, once I start a project, I really enjoy watching other people grow around me and myself. And so I like working with people most of the time. And it's just fun putting a team together, and that's in solving some really tough problems. And hopefully this is a diverse board. I think that's really important, that you don't all agree on everything. The arguments that come out show you where you should learn more or provide a perspective that you don't get anywhere else. And I enjoyed it.
Okay. Thank you, Fred. Let's see, our next applicant would be,
Thank you.
any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Fred. Okay, Bill Banks, would you go up to the podium and introduce yourself, sir, after we sanitize?
Thank you, John.
Hello, council members. My name is Bill Banks. Some of you remember me from running for the last race. I lived here since 1975. Most of you know about me by now, but I've lived here since 1975. I met my wife here in 1976, and we were married in 77. We built a house here in 1978, had our first child in 1979, second child in 1981. I love this place. Lived here longer than I have anywhere else in my life. I would like to contribute to the growth of this place, but I think the growth has to be maintained according to our resources, and our main resource is water. We have to make sure that we don't outgrow that resource. But getting back to myself, I worked in the oil field most of my life. The last job I had, I worked for Key Energy Services from 1981 until April of this year when they let me go for a workforce reduction. I was a supervisor for 24 of those years. I heard the question asked Mr. Blackburn about what's my main strength in leadership. It was not micromanaging. I tried to surround myself with people I could work with, and I didn't have to watch over their shoulders. In that 24-year period as supervisor, and back then we hired and fired our own people. I let maybe 2 or 3 people go in that amount of time. I could go on vacation for 2 weeks and come back and things would look like I did when I left. And I think it's important not to micromanage, and if you put people in place that you don't have to micromanage, it's a strength. Okay, so I've been out of work until just a couple of months ago when I started training to drive school bus, and I'm now driving the school bus for RE1. I've got morning runs and then afternoon runs, total 5 hours. So I 25 hours a week total. So I have plenty of time to devote to work with the council. Yeah, that's about what I'm going to say about myself.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Amy, would you like to ask a question, please?
I do, but he just actually answered it in the last sentence of his introduction. So I guess, Bill, would you, the question would be, do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with?
As far as I know, I get up and go to work at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm back at the house when the first runs between 9 and 9:30, and then I don't have to be back at the bus barn until 2:15, and then I'm off between 5 and 5:30. So, yeah, I believe I would have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, David, do you have a question?
I do. Bill, do you have specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And if so, how would you use that training to work for the city council?
I do not in municipal leadership or training any of that. I have worked part of the last 6 years on my local church board, working with budgets. I know it's minuscule compared to the budget that runs through the city of Cortez, but in my mind, budgets are budgets. It's money in and money out. And as long as you keep that in mind, you stay within bounds and stay out of trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel,
Bill, how do you think council members should conduct themselves on social media?
Well, I think they probably should keep as much to themselves, their personal comments as possible. You do have to share somewhat with the media. I mean, that's what the media is for, to get the workings of the council to the people. But yeah, I would say keep it to a minimum.
okay. Orly,
Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
I have a few, I mean, not a lot, but I have several, yes.
All right, thank you.
hey. Arlena,
Bill, you said that you worked on smaller budgets for your church. Have you worked on any large budgets at all?
Not really. While I was a supervisor, I was in control of probably $2 to $3 million worth of equipment and 12 men. So I know large, how to handle large amounts of money. But as far as putting together the budget for that, no. But like I say, family budget, church budget, city budget, budget for the country, it's money in, money out. You watch what you look at your needs and you look at your wants. When the needs are taken care of, and then you look at your wants.
okay. Thank you. What do you consider your most valuable trait? Bill?
I think I'm a friendly, outgoing person. I like people. I guess that'd be about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your attendance. Okay. We'll right down the podium. Get ready for our next applicant.
Are we ahead of schedule?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, next applicant, Jeff Byerly. would you go up to the podium, sir, and introduce yourself?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeff Bartley. I'm a resident of Cortez since Monson County since '96. 2009, became a homeowner in Cortez. I've run the past 2 city council elections, and at this time, I'm interested in responding to the call to seat vacated by seat. Happy to do so. That's the introduction I want to share. I guess I get an opportunity to share more, but I'm currently employed at the Project Family Resource Center. I coordinate the father program. I have been in social work for about 3 years now at the Pinion Project. Previous to that, took a short stint at the Child Development Center out in Toyoak. That level of leadership didn't suit me, my want. But before that, I spent close to 10 years in early childhood education. Montessori credential, Children's Kiva, where I supported my 2 boys working through school, preschool. Was encouraged to get a credential in early childhood education. Before that, I was employed in secondary education, both the MCHS and the Southwest Open School for 5 years. That takes me all the way back to 1996, where I started in the community at Cortez Middle School. And I was just reflecting back all that time ago where Karen Sheep was my mentor in my first year at the middle school. I grew up in Colorado, the Front Range. My father, a history professor at the University of Northern Colorado. Family of 6 children. So I'm a Colorado native. I love the West Slope. My dad had a fondness for the West Slope as well. I came down here. I'm the divorced father of 2. Came down with my wife at the time. Settled in Dolores, loved Dolores immediately, loved Montezuma County. And now I get to say that I just like to go back and visit the Front Range. I still have family there. Extensive experience in education. And I guess coming out of college, I came out of college with a secondary education degree, French education. I spent 2 years in Africa serving in the Peace Corps. I got to support technical English delivery at an iron mine in the Western Sahara. Very challenging, very fulfilling experience for me. I heard some questions being asked about other trainings. I do have a master's degree in administrative leadership and policy studies. Locally participated in FLTI, Family Leadership Training Institute, which is a 20-week session on civic engagement, where I learned some valuable skills and got to know the community at an agency level. Also participated in Leadership Montezuma local program. I have had opportunities. I'm very comfortable in group dynamics and love the opportunity to be a part of a team. See that being one of my more pertinent skills is my ability to collaborate effectively with other people. My communication skills have been supported to believe in my interpersonal skills. I believe to listen and express this. I'm excited about an opportunity to be able to serve the community in which I live, set an example for my 2 boys, and I believe that these are very interesting times where communication and collaboration are going to be critical to us as a community moving forward in the direction we want. That's what I have to say. I'd love to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll begin with Amy. You want to answer or ask a question, please?
Hi, Jeff. Do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with?
Amy, thank you for asking. I'm holding off on any other commitments at this time, just to see what's going on with this position. I don't know what the timeline is for the selection, but I feel like I have considerable flexibility in my employment and can make it work around both the demands of my work and the demands of my family. So I wouldn't be stepping into this if I didn't feel that I could make the time and commit to appropriate.
Thank you. David.
Good evening, Jeff. I believe you've done a good job of answering my question, but for the record, tell us about your specific training in municipal leadership, team building skills, and specifically, how would you use that training to work for the city council?
Well, I feel like my best experience actually came as a teacher over Southwest Open School in the time that I was there. Group dynamics was such an important aspect. Supporting youth in learning requires just an extensive amount of facilitation. Just practicing clear communication, being able to practice assertive communication in my speaking and active listening is something I get to model. Not only benefits me, but anybody that's present in my group. Facilitation, the FLTI, the family leadership training that I alluded to before. I participated in it, so I got to learn about the community and specific processes that make government operate. And then as a trainer or a lead facilitator in that program, I got to deliver that same curriculum. So being the recipient and then able to deliver it, trained in delivery. I'm currently supporting the facilitation of several parenting programs. I think there's a great deal of value to be able to effectively listen and make a positive contribution. And I guess I have an opportunity to really speak to the importance of positivity and taking because I say things are challenging. I want to highlight the importance of being more trauma informed and how we can honestly support each other through being positive and reducing fear, reducing anger. I believe that becomes very important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel.
My question is, how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
I just alluded, and I got the benefit of hearing a previous response. I believe that there's an expectation to share some of what we think, some of what it gets to be an exchange of information. I believe that for that to happen, again, it has to be done in a positive manner. And if there's nothing positive or good to say, it may not be the forum to be sharing that. I know that anything that is shared gets to be factual. It gets to be research-based, and we're not. As a team, we get to be supportive and non-judgmental in differing views. It's it's a good tool. It just gets to be a tool that's used well and intelligently. Awesome.
Thank you. Orly,
Yeah. Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
I have orally participated in a number of meetings, attended a few meetings. My priorities have been indeed elsewhere for the years that I've been here in the community. But there have been a few key discussions around some topics in the past that have drawn my interest. And it might have been more in conjunction with specific trainings that I was a part of as well. So looking forward to learning more about what's involved.
Okay, thank you.
Amina,
Jeff, what is your experience with large budgets?
Large budgets, I wish. I can't even speak to being a teacher, I even have limited experience in managing the big budget of a household. I would say it's limited at this point. I get to say that I also have managed the budget of a household. I get to be in social work. I get to be and have a hand in the management of a very small budget over at the Penny Project. And then my time out at the Child Development Center in Toyoak was short, that I didn't have extensive an opportunity to learn. I see myself as a lifelong learner, and it's one of those areas where I would be open to learning, contributing what I can. I agree that the fact of the matter is we get to prioritize. We get to make decisions based on sound judgment about the needs and our wants.
thank you. Jeff, what do you consider your most valuable trait as a leader or director?
Again, the ability to communicate, listen. I want to feel confident in my assertions. And I think that has a place. And in the last few years, I have really come to value in myself the ability to take a more positive orientation. See the value of that.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions? Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next applicant will be Lydia DeHaven on Zoom. Lydia, are you present?
I'm
on Zoom?
here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Lydia, thank you. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi. I just want to first thank everyone for their time and for all of your public service. My name is Lydia DeHaven. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I moved out to Cortez about 8 years ago. I just really fell in love with the community, the small town living, and the strong community values drew me in. And I decided to really settle roots here. I purchased my first home ever with my husband here 3 years ago, and I've been kind of just getting more involved with the community ever since. I've been a volunteer at the Bridge Shelter for the last several years, feeding people meals in the winter. I've been involved with productions in the Sunflower Theater and done some volunteering for Pet's Sake Humane Society. And, I just really believe, like, I grew up literally and metaphorically in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. And I really believe in the power of being a neighbor and believe that we all need to look out for each other. I'm really concerned about Cortez in the future with the after effects of COVID on the economy. I'm concerned about economic development, small businesses, small business development and sustainability, as well as how this is going to impact the already expensive housing and lack of affordable housing in our community and the homelessness. These are all issues I feel really passionate about. I've been in conversations with the city council about the homelessness in Cortez, and have currently been reading some other towns' homeless policies, as well as I'm in communication with a professor over at Fort Lewis College who did a ethnographic study of the homeless population over in Durango, to see what kind of data that came of that and how that was useful for the city. Yeah, and besides that, personally, I really love cats. I've got 3. They're out here somewhere, and I'm just really excited for this opportunity to interview. I know another issue I've been worried about is the audit the city is currently under, so we can't get state grant funding right now, and how that's going to impact us moving forward.
Thank you, Lydia. Amy, would you like to ask your question?
Good evening, Lydia. Do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with?
Yes, I do have the time. I mean, I took this opportunity seriously, and I understand the time commitments are going to be beyond the workshops and meetings. I didn't mention before that I've spent most of my career as a public servant for the federal government. I have a lot of flexibility with my work and my scheduling, so I don't foresee that being an issue, giving my time and attending the meeting.
Thank you. David? David, do you have a question?
I guess if you could hear me, it would be a better question.
Okay.
Lydia, do you have the specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And if so, how will you use that training to work on the council?
Yeah, as part of my career with the federal government, I've had lots of training in leadership skills, how to work with groups collaboratively, effective communication, effective listening techniques. I've had lots of training in how to follow specific policies and procedures. I'm kind of a federal policy wonk. I'm a specialist that ensures that my agency follows the laws correctly and all of the policies and mandates. So I foresee that translating really easily into more municipality and city laws and mandates. Specifically, I've done a lot of trainings in collaboration and working with diverse groups of people and working with people that don't always have the same points of views. I work with a lot of different stakeholders that, some come from like environmentalist backgrounds, some come from backgrounds where they want to drill for oil and gas, and we have to work on projects and come to a common ground.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
Lydia, how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
I think council members should be as professional as possible on social media. So I personally do not have any social media, so that would not be an issue for me. But I do believe for other members that do have social media, it is your right, freedom of speech, to express yourself on social media, but there is an ethical line that you can cross. So for example, if there was a decision coming up that had not been made yet, but you are putting things on social media that are portraying your view or portraying possibly information that's sensitive and not out there for the public yet, then you're starting to cross ethical lines that will need to be addressed.
Thank you.
Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
Yeah, I have attended and watched city council meetings before. I have caught a lot of them on the YouTube stream. It was one of my goals this year was to attend or watch a city council meeting once a month. I was unable to make the last one, but I listened in when you had the representatives of the March for Justice and Peace and the Back the Blue Riders come in to express themselves. I was listening to one about the county commission's new plan and how that might impact the city. Ongoing, I've listened to some of the workshops about the issues with the audit and how that can possibly be addressed.
Thank you.
Lydia, what is your experience with large budgets?
So I've, it's as part of my career, I've managed many large budgets. The largest budgets I have managed are like $300,000. So, I mean, I'm not in the millions, but it's got quite a few zeros there. And that's maintaining staff pay. I've also been in situations and project funding. I've also been in situations where I've gotten like literally $100,000 at the end of the fiscal year that I have to spend or use it or lose it. And I've had to hire contractors quickly to get work done. I've worked with moving money around to make sure everyone's going to get paid and all the projects we're working on are going through on time. Yeah, it's been something I've managed, you know, staffs from like crews of like 4 people to larger projects with like 20 to 30 people and all the budgeting for that.
Thank you. Lydia, what do you consider your most valuable trait as a leader or a director?
I think my most valuable trait is just I'm a master collaborator. I'm not afraid. I love working with people and I'm not afraid to ask for help and ask for questions. I think that things can get done more efficiently and better with more people helping out. If I'm not an expert in something, I'm not going to pretend I am, but I'm going to find somebody who is. I've worked on lots of projects with diverse groups of people that do not see eye to eye, and we have to come to compromises on how things are going to work moving forward. And it's just something I love to do. I love to reach out to people and say, hey, do you know about this? And how could we do this better and make improvements and just make more connections in my community.
Okay. Thank you, Lydia. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Yeah, thank you for your time and service.
You're welcome. Okay, our next applicant is Robert Dobry. Would you like to come up to the podium, sir? Podium, and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Robert Dobry. I work at Community Radio Project in Cortez, and then I also serve on the Montezuma County Hospital District Board. When I saw that you guys had an opening on the board, I thought I should at least apply. I'm glad that there's a lot of applicants and you guys have a broad range of people to choose from. I've had experience with larger budgets, both in Montezuma County, volunteering as well as in my job. And I think of this board, especially as a non-political board, as a way for the people of Cortez to work together and kind of figure out how to do things. And I think I could be a good fit there.
Okay. Amy, you have questions for Robert?
I do. Hi, Rob. Do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with?
I do. I think that people do have to realize that the 2 meetings a month are really just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And a lot of what you guys do is getting to know the community through other meetings and through meeting and talk, well, less meeting now, but meeting and talking with constituents, whether that be through email or phone or in person. And I think you have to make a lot of time for that, just to be informed about the things that you're going to be making decisions on at that 1 meeting a month, and then also to stay informed about just everything.
Thank you. David?
Robert, tell us about any specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills that you have. And if so, how would you use that training to work for the city council?
One of the most important trainings I think that I had was going through Leadership Montezuma, where you sort of learn about all of the different moving pieces of how municipal government works and all of the various boards in the nonprofit community of Montezuma County. And I think that is, to me, that's a really important part of leadership. But I've also through work and through other board trainings have learned about, have had board trainings about building consensus, working together as teams, realizing that you're all here to kind of pull in one direction and you might disagree about stuff, but really at the end of the day, you're kind of trying to figure out what's best for the community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rachel?
How do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
I think at least for me, I would be pretty limited in any sort of political, any talking about issues. I think putting informational things out there about if there's a meeting coming up about a specific topic, say there's a meeting coming up about a specific topic, and soliciting information and input from constituents. But as one of the previous people was saying, there are issues if you're putting opinions out there ahead of meetings, ahead of hearing from experts, you can put yourself in an ethical problem. As well as it's just if you're kind of telegraphing your opinion about everything all the time, you're not going to be listening to your other board members, and you're kind of pre-deciding things as opposed to in a meeting saying, oh, I hadn't thought about how this would affect that, and I really maybe my opinion would change, but you've now locked yourself in something you've said on Facebook or so. So I think that would be dangerous. To me, I would use it mostly as an informational, to put information out and say, this is an issue the community is dealing with. Come to the meeting, listen, watch on Zoom, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Worley?
Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
I have. I try to watch at least one of the meetings a month. And also in the past, I've attended meetings, particularly relating to the finances and the investment issues of the last couple of years. I think that, to me, that's one of the major things, is making sure that this board is watching over the fiscal responsibility of being on board.
Thank you.
Robert, what is your experience with large budgets? Oh, I know that you said you did have some experience, so can you elaborate a little bit on that and any challenges that you have faced with those budgets?
So I have kind of a dual-sided relationship with kind of larger budgets. In my job, I would work as a project manager for KSJD, and I work with budgets and work with grant budgets, so I'm managing budgets and staff that way, but also in an oversight role, particularly through the hospital district. We oversee the hospital district budget, as well as overseeing Southwest Health System, who's sort of they implement and provide healthcare, whereas our goal are longer term, making sure there's healthcare in the community. So I'm responsible as the treasurer of the hospital district for the hospital district budget, but also providing oversight to Southwest Health System.
Thank you. Robert, what do you consider your most valuable trait as a leader or a director?
I think probably my most valuable trait is in listening to my other board members. I think even if you disagree about something, there's always something that you can hear in what the other person is saying, either that will change your opinion or will relate into what you're saying or what they're saying, to kind of realize, oh, they want this and we might not agree on how to get there, but I think if we work together, we can just make a decision together. So that, to me, that I would say.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're running ahead of time, so I'm gonna declare a 10-minute break. Let's see, our next attendee is at 7 o'clock, and that's Sam Dosumo. So we'll take a short break, and we'll wait for our attendee to be in council chambers. Okay. Take a short break now. It's 6:35. We'll reconvene at 6:45.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
This is going well.
I thought so, yeah.
You've got some.
No. Did you look at the? Oh, okay.
I'm just sitting here first impression. This is going well.
Yeah, yeah,
Didn't anticipate.
yeah. I thought it would go slower. I thought people would be had lengthy answers. But
No, the questions are being read, or stated in a better way than the last time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is going well.
Yeah, I looked at the old questions and there wasn't much.
That's what I said. What I said.
Yeah,
But these are working well.
good, thank you.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Doing great.
Good. Yeah, we're running ahead, so okay. You just relax.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Actually, I thought it'd be going the other direction. Yeah. Questions? Me too.
I will, sir. Thank you. You guys got a lot of attention on there. You guys have a lot of attention.
What do you mean, you guys? You're part of us guys.
I'm part of that. All places. Yes. And then concentric circles outward and see which Chinese.
Boulder Valley. Boulder Valley. It is. It is the center of the world. I hope my letters are where I'm pointing. I think it's you.
You said you got property. Say that again. I mean.
Out in
At least through January.
yeah. Oh, get in and out. Oh, yeah, they're really nice. These are brand new ones too. Those down there were here when we bought this. I couldn't get. Yeah, thank you. I was gonna go get more of those. Okay. Yeah, it's going smooth and people are kind and thoughtful and I'm smart. Oh.
Yeah. Support your side and stay on your side. They're not doing what, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And in the middle and like where we're at, stopping when we're supposed to stop. And we had some slow, unlike sidewalks. Oh, yeah. She's standing in front of the old beach. They're like Beach Street. And so they're flipping us up. Just stand there. Somebody obviously. Yeah, that that's yeah, you guys got they answered every question. And then shadows. I parked in the middle of the road. And until I staying at the bottom of the road. Yeah, you gotta show you just stand up and regret the turn lane. You should be. Or hoping to provide. You must be doing that. From the other than that, it was, we did what we're supposed to do there. Start walking. And then Tiffany said that she's actually going to start a little earlier. So we can miss her. That we it's a really run like we're sitting at the youth and yeah. Trying. I don't have this reason for last year. I'm just Marine. That's just plain basic 101. You go over, you got it. And then, yeah. Well, BMX wanted to come out that BMX. They said they'll match it. If you spin on it, we'll match it. We'll make it. What do you want people in here? You want people to stop and spend your money. I could give you go, you guys. But I said, Tyson's trying to come in. You want to bring an eggplant? I said, no, they will bring a chicken plant. I said, no. They both want to come in and put a 22-acre distribution center, which that'll put everybody over. And then, no, 19 will be here for the distribution center. Here, there's nothing over there. South California.
you know, like Beethoven, when there's a couple other big corporations, you don't want all these people. You want income, you gotta, businesses together that are paying dividends income for the people. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of complexity. Yeah. Yeah. They're just mental notes for.
He's part of that. Sorry. He's good with it, Mike.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. You know what, for Sam, I know Sam's coming as well.
Oh, good.
What did you say, Linda?
I spoke to Sam today.
Okay.
So that'll make him now, but
Okay.
Mike is happy to go there. Someone is here. I don't know.
I'm gonna switch.
I can't really see out this window. There's a tree.
Oh, yeah.
We still have 15 minutes till Sam's even scheduled, so I say we go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we're getting ready to reconvene our applicant questions. We're running a little bit ahead of time, so the fellow that's scheduled to appear at 7 o'clock is not here yet, but Mike Frazier is here early, so we're going to take him out of turn. So Mike, would you like to come up to the podium and introduce yourself, please?
How you doing? My name is Mike Frazier. United States Marine veteran from Desert Storm. I live at 1020 South Chestnut. Born in Montrose, Colorado. Moved down here when I was 3 months old, and I lived in Cortez for the rest of my life. Graduated in 1988. Love the Marine Corps. I was a corporal in the Marine Corps, but they had me as a fill-in sergeant because they didn't have any. So I dealt with troops, I dealt with supply, demand, and ordering stuff and pulling stuff out of what wouldn't need to be pulled out.
Okay. All right, we'll begin our questions if you're done with your presentation. Okay, Amy.
Hi, Michael. I was
How you doing,
wondering,
man?
yeah, Well, thank you. Do you have the time for?
Amy, you're.
Yeah, why is it so quiet?
Is that better now?
Okay, that's better. Yeah.
Okay.
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
I'll proceed. Michael, do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all the other community meetings you may need to be involved with?
Yes, I do, ma'am. I'm retired, so I have all the time in the world.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, David.
Mike, do you have specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And if so, how will you use that training to work for the city council?
Well, like I said, I was a corporal in the Marine Corps. I did have my own platoon of 74 people that I did take care of. You know, I had to pass down orders to them and took orders from the people above me. I am a team player, and if I don't know something, I always ask so I can be informed.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
All righty. Thank you. Rachel.
All right, how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
Professionally. You know, you should, like the last gentleman said, you know, you should be giving your ideas. It should be the council members. This is what we're going to be talking about. Be there so you can inject what your ideas are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, Orly.
Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
Yes, I've been to quite a few of them, sir.
All right, thank you, Senor.
You're welcome.
Okay, Arlena.
Mike, what is your experience with like large budgets?
None. Like I said, I've worked in supply, like ordering vests and gas masks and stuff like that, but I've never dealt with the budget. But I'm willing to sit down and learn it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a good one for you. What is your most valuable trait as a leader or director?
Always surround yourself with people that know more than you do. That makes you look smarter.
Good. Okay. Any other questions, council? How long are you in the Marine Corps?
6 years, sir.
6 years. Okay.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your service, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir.
Did you want to add anything else or say anything more?
I'm just a simple country boy, you know, I want to try to make a difference, you know, in the city that I grew up, the town I grew up in. I've always thought about doing this, but never really acted on it until now.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I like, John, how you do the wax on, wax off.
Okay. Okay.
Watch the Karate Kid.
We're still running.
We're too young for that. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I know, I date myself every time.
Okay. Our next applicant appears to be here. Dr. Sam, would you like to come up to the podium and introduce yourself? I'll explain, we're running a little ahead, so we appreciate you being here early ahead of your time. So would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
You can take your mask off while you're up there.
Well, good evening. My name is Sam DeSumo. I serve as the executive dean of Pueblo Community College Southwest Campus, right down the street from here. I've lived in town now for about 14 months. I moved here from Phoenix, Arizona, June last year to take on my job as the executive dean of campus. Yeah, been in higher education for just about all my life. And I have 2 kids, they live up in Denver. I'm married, my wife and I live down here, and she works for the Consolidated Central School District. She's a school teacher.
Okay. Would you like to say anything more about your experience at Pueblo?
Yes, sure, absolutely. My role at Pueblo is I'm the CEO of the campus. We have 3 locations: Macas, Durango, and Bayfield.
Okay.
We just opened the Bayfield site in September, about a year ago exactly, September last year. And my role is as I said, the CEO, I supervise everything, and the buck stops at my desk, so to speak. Our mission right now, serving the community, of course, and I really, what I'm trying to do is really make PCC be a part of the community, to be integrated with the community, because, one thing that I guess, I'd like to really emphasize is that Cortez Mancos is a college town. We have a college here, and I think I want the community to know that and to be proud of that. So in this corner, along this whole area of the state, southwest corner of the state, it's always been a passion of mine to work here, and so I had the opportunity to come here last year, so I love it. And I just think between Cortez and Bayfield, we have sites for colleges. So you have Fort Lewis, 4-year institution. You have us, 2-year institution. And, our goal is to really serve all the students, serve all the high school students, as well as non-traditional adults who want to further education, workforce development, really work with workforce development and the likes. My service area goes from here, from the border, all the way to Pagosa Springs, and then as far north as Silverton. So it's a huge service area in terms of the work we do. But I love it. I love being in this area. And then, of course, being in Cortez, kind of getting used to being part of a small community. But it's actually, that's the joy of it, because living in Phoenix for 6 years plus, it's like, wow, what a change. I love it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of excited about being part of the community, being a voice, bringing some diversity to all what we do. And when we look around us right now, the need for that is heightened. And I just think that with my experience in higher ed and wanting to know a lot more about municipal governance, I think I can bring stuff to the table. I can bring some diverse ideas and different views of looking at things, and plus help the community grow, be part of that growth. That's kind of my interest.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll start with some questions for you, sir. Amy, would you like to begin?
Hi, Sam. Good evening. I was wondering, do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all the other community meetings you may need to be involved with on council?
Yes, I do. My work hours basically any time, but I begin work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 5 o'clock things are usually calm down, 5:30 at the latest. So I'm available after that. I know that the council meets on Tuesdays, second and fourth Tuesdays from about 5:30. Do the work sessions, and then the meetings start at 7 o'clock. So yes, absolutely. Some weeks you'll have longer days, but that's just part of the business.
Thank you. Okay, David.
Do you have the specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And if so, how will you use that training to work for the city council?
Oh, absolutely. I've been in leadership now, at least at the higher level since about 2000. I've served as vice president at a couple of colleges across the country. one of the things that I am looking forward to learning, is really how municipal government works. But I think as far as leadership is concerned, I believe I have the qualities of it. I know how to bring people together. I usually start with the end and kind of work my way backwards and say, what is the goal? What is it we're trying to achieve? I think so that we don't spend so much time on the process, because I think that's what happens. We spend so much time on the process and they get bogged down. But I think in leadership, the most important thing is what is the outcome you want to accomplish? And hence, and I apply that same principle and concept to my work. When I get into meetings with my staff, we talk about this is the expected outcome, and let's look at how we're going to get there. And so, really stay concrete, stay on time, and so I think I'll bring some of those into the work of the city council member.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Thank you. Rachel?
All right, my question is, how do you think council members should conduct themselves on social media?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think, first of all, professionally, as a council member, you represent your community. And I think that we are spoiled with very laxity in communication and what we say. We just think it's a free platform, and you just say whatever. And I really do think that that's what really comes back to bite us in the long run. So I would say, as a council member, first you think, okay, before you hit send, just like what we do at work when I tell my staff, before you hit send, read it, make sure that if it comes back at you, you can stand up to it. And so it's the same thing too, that before I hit send, right, read it over and say, okay, how can I defend what I just said? No, 100% of the time you can't, but at least 95% of the time defend it and ask, would I like somebody to say this to me? So I think we need to get back to realism and say, this is not the right way to write. As a council member, I represent my community, which means what I'm saying, I'm speaking for the residents of the community. So therefore, conduct appropriately. I don't even use social media to tell the truth because, number one, the amount of work it takes. Secondly, the fact that there's just so much stuff out there that people believe, and half of it is not true. But I think if I find myself having to do that, I'll do it judiciously. Say, put out stuff, and then don't just keep tweeting and repeating just because you have the access. Think first before you do.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Orly?
Yeah, have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
Yes, I think actually when I saw this announcement in the newspaper, I started really thinking about it. I thought, I'd love to really see what it's like. So I saw I think I watched last week's meeting. I think that was the one when the folks came with the pictures were outside here with the trucks and all that stuff about what happened on Main Street. So yeah, I listened to that, and I also listened to a prior meeting, must have been the previous meeting to that. So, and I feel like I can participate in the meetings. I feel like I can provide answers, and I know there'll be a lot of reading and really looking at information, background information that will help decision making. So I know I can put that amount of time into it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Orlina?
Dr. Sam, what is your experience with large budgets, and can you tell us about a time where you experienced a challenge and how you worked through that with budgets?
Sure. Large budgets, the college I work for right now, we manage large budgets. The entire budget for the campus is under me. It's basically, and then even before coming to PCC, other colleges where I've worked, managed budgets, maybe compared to the city, it's pretty minimal, but about $2 to $5 million. Basically, starting with what are the constants? What are the constants? The things you have to definitely pay for in overhead, and then be judicious about the variables in terms of what are those things you have flexibility with. And I know that city governance, municipal government is a little bit different because, you know, I mean, of course, limited resources, taxes and whatever, I mean, grants and other sources of income, but you have to manage it. You have to manage it very well, efficiently, because you spend your taxpayer money. At the end of the day, it's all about taxpayer money, and you have to be accountable for that. And so, you know, as I said in my letter of application or in my letter of interest, I know how to read budget reports, financial statements. I always thought that if I wasn't a computer science major, I'd be an accounting major. So I really do have a passion for numbers, and I understand them, and I can analyze very well budget reports. And yeah, like I said, I can absolutely, because numbers are just something I do naturally. So again, you know, as far as where I work, we manage budgets differently at the college level. You know, we're responsible for staff salary, you know, miscellaneous expenses, operating expenses, facilities, everything. So I have to watch that like a hawk, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Sam, what do you consider your most valuable trait as a leader or director?
I'm a good listener. I'm a good listener. I'm always around. I'm visible. That's one thing about me. My staff will always say, you know, I'm always visible. I always tell them that my office, I mean, at work, my office, I have an open door policy. So I'm always available to my staff. Taking that and applying that to municipal, you know, governance, yeah, I think I will also be a very good listener. And as a listener, a public listener, I believe you need both ears, not just one side. You need to listen to the negative as well as the positive, and then try to weigh what's the best decision in the best interest of the citizens, because that's who you represent, that's who you are. That's who you're making decisions for. What's good for Cortez? What's good for the area? I think at the end of the day, that's what you come up to. So I think one thing I will bring is listening, my listening skills. I'm a good analyst because my work, you have to learn to analyze a lot of data and a lot of different variables to make the best decision for the college. So I analyze very well, and you know, I play what if scenarios. You know, I will try to look left and right, try to look at the positive and the negative, and then just say, you know what, whatever decision I make is always based on the data I have. If I have to, you know, because people will challenge you. So why did you make that decision? Well, based on the data I have, I made that decision. If you change the data, if I change it, my decision may be different. But at that moment when I made it, it was based on the evidence and the data and everything I had. So I think I believe I'll bring all those traits to being a council member, being thoughtful, being careful, and yeah, communication. I communicate very well, and you know, so I think all of those roll together as a leader, and those are the traits that have actually made me successful in my job for many years, since 2000, now, vice president or dean level at any college. So 20 years in counting, you know, I think I've learned a lot of things about it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your application or your desire to be on the city council?
Yeah, I'm very interested in it because, again, you know, I live in like I said, I live in a small community. Cortez is a bedroom community, and I think that's what's, if I may use the word cute, that's what's cute about it. Because you look around, I mean, I haven't lived in, gosh, I think I've lived in about 4 or 5 big cities: Denver, Phoenix. I lived on the East Coast. I just think coming to Cortez, there's a good future for Cortez from my standpoint. You know, with what's going on in our society right now, both social injustice as well as just the disruption that the coronavirus has brought to us. I mean, this is an opportunity for small towns to start getting visitors and residents. In fact, I've been hearing that there's movements happening of people relocating to small towns, and I think Cortez is at a crossroad. It's at a very good crossroad. You have the major highways, 491, you have 160, you have Durango within less than 45 minutes from here. We're really sitting well, and I think if done right, I think I'd like to see this town grow, kind of methodically, not just all of a sudden double. It can double, but let it grow. Let's have the right resources. Let's have the right amenities for people, because when I look at the young folks who are in school right now, coming to college, they want to stay local, and I think that's what we want to do. We want them to stay local, grow your economy locally. Because when you go to the big city, there's not much besides shopping meccas and all that stuff. I think you in a small town, you can help your community grow, and that's some of the messaging we're giving high school students. That grow local, stay local, and help your own economy. We're trying to build a lot of stuff at the college so that we are, like I said, part of the community. We serve the high school, all the high schools. There are about 9 of them that we serve, 9 school districts. So that's a lot. So again, my interest in this job, in this seat, is to be a voice, really be a voice of diversity, a voice of another way of looking at something, and just like, I never thought about it that way. So, and plus it will be an opportunity for me to learn about municipal governments, how does it work, so that down the road, you never know, I might find myself, vying for one. But really, I think, I just think it's the perfect time to do it in and really learn along the way. Opportunity to learn along the way. I always like to learn. I'm always learning.
Thank you for your optimism.
Thank you.
Okay, we are still running ahead. Thank you, Dr. Sam. Appreciate your
Thank you so much.
being here.
Appreciate it.
Let's see. Houston. Okay. Yeah. We're Houston. We're running a little early, but I'm glad you arrived here early. As soon as we get the podium sanitized, we'll be ready for you. Okay, you can go up there and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
My name is Houston Frizzell. I'm actually a Cortez native. Been here almost all of my life. After I got married, my wife and I did go out to Phoenix for about 1.5 years, just to kind of spread our wings a little bit, try to see what else was out there. Our son was born while we were there, but we had made the decision that as soon as he was born, we were going to come home. We wanted to really just not raise a kid in a metro environment like that. We wanted to raise our family right here. This is where we wanted to be. This is where our families are. We both are locals. My wife grew up here as well, graduates from MCHS. At that time, I started in the car business with New Country down on South Broadway, and I just kind of grew into that. Nobody really sets out saying I want to be a car salesman when I grow up. It just kind of happens. But it actually worked. I really found a niche there. I really found a good opportunity for me and my family to be in Cortez. Long story short, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to take a job up in Durango, still in the car business. A lot of people asking me if I wanted to make the move. Hey, come live in Durango. Hey, that way you don't have to commute an hour each way. I didn't want to do it. I couldn't do that. That wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in Cortez. We've got the kids in the school district here. This is home. That's really all there is to it. Just about 1 year ago, I was given the opportunity to come back to Cortez with Steve Keach Motors. Steve reached out to me and we visited, and it just made sense to be back home. Now I'm 1 mile from my house as opposed to 100 miles a day. So that was really important for me to be not only with the family, but again, to be a part of the community. I just really felt out of touch in the time that I was in Durango. I was over there for a little over 1 year, commuting every day, and I just kind of felt out of touch with everything in the community, everything happening here. And with the position with Steve Keach, I've got the evenings free. I've got weekends available. I've got more time to just get out and get involved. We did get our son graduated from high school this year. We got him off to college. He's at Fort Lewis. And My daughter's now in high school, so we've got her into the high school, we've got him settled at college. Now I think I've got the time to actually get out and be a little more involved, you know, participate in things like the city council. Just be a part of the community, you know, I really want to just kind of dig in and, you know, just learn a little bit more about the local government. Just really kind of want to give back. You know, I really feel like the cities and the residents here have given me a lot of success over the years. I just really want to give back. You know, I may not be as educated as some of the other candidates. It is what it is. You know, I went to college. I always wanted to get out and get to work, and that's what I did. But with, you know, almost 20 years worth of experience running dealerships, you know, I think I think this would be a pretty good fit. You know, I've been in management the majority of that time. I don't know. I just feel like the time's right. Last spring, when there was the election, I didn't put myself on the ballot at that point because we were at the end of my son's senior year in high school. We did want to get that wrapped up. I had just been at the dealership here for about 6 months at that point, you know, so I still have a lot of building to do there. Things are going pretty well down there. You know, I think now things are going smooth enough that I could step out. You know, I do have a fairly flexible schedule. You know, obviously I'm committed to that job, but you know, if I do need to get out for, you know, meetings during the week or whatever, I think I can manage that. The evenings, obviously, the evenings are going to be available. Weekends if needed. I'm just local, you know. I think, like I said, I may not be the most qualified for the position, but I think I can be the most passionate. I do have a couple of friends that I've had over the years that have been on the council before. I reached out to them just to kind of get their take on it, to see if they thought I'd be a good fit. Both of them said they did. Both of them said they would endorse me. Gary Noyes was on the previous council. We've known each other since kindergarten, growing up here in Cortez. He said, yeah, absolutely. He thinks I'd be a good fit. He'd definitely endorse me. Donna Foster, it's been a few years since she's been on the board. I don't know if any of you know her, but I've known her for a long, long time. Really good friend of mine. She also said she'd endorse me for the position.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, you've already answered some of the questions. See, Amy's question was, do you have time for the extra evening meetings and all the other community meetings? Amy, do you have anything else to add to that question?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say he already answered my question. Thank you, Houston.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. David. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes.
Thank you, Amy.
My turn.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you believe you have the specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And if so, tell us how you would use that training to work with the city council.
Oh, absolutely. Like I mentioned, I've been in management for years and years. In fact, I've taken leadership training courses throughout the time, various courses. Just being a people person, I think, is important. You know, I sit down and I listen to both sides. If a problem comes up, I want to hear both sides. I don't want to hear just one side and then make a snap decision. I want to hear both sides. I want to get all the facts, and then I want to get a decision made. Now, I don't necessarily think that we need to spend time talking the subject to death. I think we need to discuss it, find a solution, and move forward. I was in a position a few years back that it doesn't feel like things really got resolved. It felt like there were a lot of meetings. We'd have a meeting to talk about the subject. We'd have a meeting to talk about the next meeting. We'd talk about the previous meeting, and nothing ever really got accomplished. And it was really frustrating to me. And you know, I just want to get things handled. Just move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, Rachel.
All right, how do you feel a council member should conduct themselves on social media?
I haven't been on Facebook in a month. I just
Sorry.
no, you're fine.
Hold on a second, we've got some technical issues.
Difficulties, no worries.
well, I guess we'll try. I don't hear echoing in there again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there's just so much craziness in the world right now between the COVID and the politics and everything. I removed myself from social media about a month ago. I'll look at LinkedIn once in a while throughout the day, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's more of a professional platform as opposed to the social aspect. So I will look at that. There's a lot of uplifting and positive, inspirational things on there. So I will take a look at that. Yeah, I mean, as far as if I'm on the council, if I am posting anything, I'm going to have the community in mind. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to put my personal politics out there or anything like that. I just want it to be, in the best interest of the community.
Orly,
Have you
you have a question?
attended? Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
Oh, absolutely. Off and on over the last few years, I've paid attention to some of the meetings. I haven't actually been here, but since all the craziness started earlier this year, I've been paying attention to not only the city council meetings, I've been watching Board of County Commissioners meetings, the school board meetings over the last few years with my kids being in the school district. Obviously, that was important to me.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I have been following the council.
Okay.
And seeing what you guys have been up against.
Thanks.
And what is your experience with large budgets?
Well, again, I worked at a dealership, so, I've got, several hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of inventory just on my end. I've had well over millions of dollars worth of inventory that I've dealt with. There's advertising budgets involved, various things, payroll. I'm familiar with financial statements. In fact, I didn't mention this earlier. I did, before I moved to start working in Durango, I was on the board of the directors for the Four Corners Child Advocacy Center. And with that, I was on the finance committee, so I was familiar with working with their budget as well.
Okay. What is your most valuable trait as a leader or director, Houston?
I think that is the trait, being a leader.
Okay.
Just jumping in and doing whatever needs done, guiding your people, if they need it. But not being afraid to get in there and get dirty. Get in there and help them succeed. Give them the guidance, but definitely jump in there and help them.
Okay. Alrighty. Any other questions? Thank you, Houston. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, we're running a little bit ahead, but Tiffany Gear is here early, and thank you very much, Tiffany. Would you like to come to the podium after we get it sanitized a little bit? And you can introduce yourself when we're ready for you. Okay.
My name is Tiffany Garrett. I appreciate you guys having the time to speak with me today. Introduce myself as in, okay, so I'm a lifelong Cortez, Colorado resident. I've moved around a few times. I've always come back here, chose to raise my children here. I'm part of a family-owned and run business, J. Fargo's. Very active in the community, very much law enforcement, first responder supporter. I've been to college, graduated both years 4.0, which is pretty amazing for somebody who, chose to go to college late in life. Was voted class valedictorian. I've done lots of public speaking. So I look forward to any questions that you guys would like to ask me. I'm very outspoken, very upfront, and very much an open book.
Thank you. Amy, do you have a question?
Hi, Tiffany. I was wondering, do you have the time for the extra evening?
Amy.
I can't hear her.
Can you,
try it
is this
again.
better?
No.
We have some static in the line.
Okay, is this better?
No, it must be on our end.
Power off. Can you hear? Is that better?
No.
No.
Very staticky.
you want to ask her question, Mike?
Yeah, okay, I'll ask a question for Amy. Tiffany, do you have time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings that may need to be involved with?
Absolutely. Actually, you guys meet on my scheduled days off, so.
Okay. Okay, David, let's try your volume.
Good evening, Tiffany. Do you have the specific training and municipal leadership?
Okay, we're having some trouble with the audio here. We'll ask the questions until we get it corrected. Okay, Tiffany, do you have specific training in municipal leadership or leadership building skills? And if so, how will you use that training to work on the council?
So my leadership skills, I come by naturally. All the way through college, while other people took electives that were fun and fancy and free, I took business classes, did other things. I took a course in college on building up events and course management, that type of thing. My leadership skills, like I said, they come naturally. And if you've watched anything I've done within the community, you know I have leadership skills.
Thank you. Rachel?
Tiffany, how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
So as we've gone through the course of things, I believe I'm par for the course, where we've seen, and I'll use this as an example, I'm not meaning to be political in any way, but I'll use this as an example. So we've seen where Lance McDaniel has been able to post that he's Antifa, those type of things. People should be able to post what they want to within regard. They need to understand that what they post is a reflection on the group as a whole. So if I'm out there, if I was part of city council, or we'll say Miss Linda down there is out there posting things that are discretionary, those should be kept maybe more to private conversation. But people should be able to have a voice in their own social media, but they should do it in a respect that understands that they're reflecting a group as a whole. In saying that, where I'm very patriotic and I do things for my business and I do things for myself, and I set up freedom rallies, that type of stuff. I mean, that stuff's, you know, it's not harmful, but a person who's posting things out there on Facebook needs, like I said, needs to understand that those things reflect on the group as a whole, and on, in this case, a community as a whole.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's check with our Zoom people. Orly?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay. We'll be asking the questions down here. Tiffany, have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, the newspaper covered me attending a city council meeting, but yes, I keep up on the city council meetings, some of the other things that go on, as well as the county commissioner meetings.
Tiffany, what is your experience with large budgets?
Large budgets, so I took accounting in college at the age of 26. I run $1 million a year business. So I think I'm pretty versed in budgets. I have to manage everything down to what does that refill of a drink cost you, to what am I pouring out of a bar, to advertising expenses, how to utilize things that cost less money versus things that cost more money, and various different things. So yeah, I say doing that for almost 15 years, I'd say I'm pretty versed in large budgets.
Okay. Thank you. Tiffany, what is your most valuable trait as a leader or a director?
My most valuable trait, I would have to say my most valuable trait is I'm not afraid to stand for the right thing, even if that means I stand alone. I'm very well spoken. I've done a lot of public speaking. I am not a person who will shy away from taking the bull by the horns, so to speak.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome. Okay, we're still running ahead, about a half hour ahead, but is David Long in attendance here?
He's not here,
Okay,
nor is Robert, so.
Maybe we can take this moment to, audio issues.
yeah, okay. Marty, we're gonna take a 20-minute break?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
No.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Amy.
your audio's coming, all the audio on Zoom right now is coming in scratchy, Amy.
Okay, I was just trying to say that Jane is here. Jane Wheeler.
Gonna be on Zoom, so.
Right. Well, and we have a meeting after this, we'll need to.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna write something in the Q&A. Can you read it?
We're gonna take a break. It's 7:30. We'll reconvene at, see, David Long is scheduled at 8.
Yeah, did Amy have a question?
Amy, can you talk now, see if we can hear you?
I was trying to say that Jane Wheeler, our last person, is here on Zoom.
Amy looks unmuted. For some reason, we still can't hear her.
Can you hear me?
I'm gonna
Can't
type
hear
it
David
in
either.
the Q&A.
Okay, that's fine, we're gonna take a break.
Okay, we're gonna take a 20-minute break. It's 7:30 now. We'll reconvene at 7:50.
Sorry, Jane.
Nothing can be smooth.
Sorry, Jane, I tried.
Wouldn't be a city meeting.
It's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
Can you say something, David?
You look so good.
Oh,
David, can
thank
hear
you,
me?
Miss Linda.
Good. Your face, you just look good. I want you to know. Oh, thank you.
I'm the sergeant on duty, so if you have any issues, give me a call. And I said, okay. So I spent quite a bit of time with on the phone with him. And so, yeah, that guy,
What was he doing? I saw your picture and I saw a motorcycle with flags at first, it said, and I didn't realize until I zoomed in to the front of it and had the sign in front of it.
yeah, so he was waiting down at Handy Mart for
He
us
was
to
what?
leave. He was waiting at Handy Mart for us to leave.
Okay.
So once we left, he came out, he caught up with us in front of the city park, right as we were coming up there. I was behind the two lead bikes, so he went in and split the lane between the two lead bikes. He shot in front of me. There was probably this much room between him and the other bikes. So he almost dumped the two lead bikes. And what I've noticed is our peaceful marchers, anytime they have what they call their fringe element is not, their fringe element is active, they have no presence. So that night, they actually switched their march over to the evening time. And I went out, I took a drive down Main Street when I got a call that they were out. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll drive by. There were 62 of them. I'll get a head count and see what they're doing. And so that guy, we were, and if you've noticed, the BLM.
Hey, can you hear me?
They don't get invited to anything. We've been invited to use sports. We've been invited out to the races.
Shay, can you
This
hear me?
weekend We were invited out to, or last weekend out to the Stand Down for Vets. And I was on the phone with the PD and I'm like, hey, this better not be the first thing our Stand Down for Vets see is a
It was a
F
nice-
Trump
It was a
flag.
nice event.
Can you hear me? Over council?
Yeah, he heard you. He hung up.
Okay, I'm muting myself now. I can't hear anything.
Neva's on. Neva, speak into the Zoom.
She might not be next to her computer.
Okay. All right. Am I up? I'm sorry. I lost connectivity for a while.
Yeah, we've been waiting for you. Just kidding.
I am so sorry. Okay.
Yeah, just kidding, Neva, sorry.
Okay, okay. All right. All right. So we are here for the first reading of ordinance 12.
Neva, we're still at our workshop. We just needed you for a sound test.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have joked with you. That was my bad.
Okay. All right. I'm muting myself.
Are we doing a sound check?
There you go. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
And you guys are live.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready.
Whenever Miss Linda says so, the room's live.
Oh, see, because you rated them these things. See, I rated each question. I don't know.
I started using that and I couldn't keep it up.
Yeah. But at least this will help with some dialogue.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, Cheryl. Keeping you busy here.
No, everybody's done really well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I thought it'd be the opposite. I thought
Yeah.
it'd be shutting people down.
I didn't need my towel.
No. Okay.
This is crazy, something wrong.
I would say, Mike, since I accidentally asked Jane, she was really today, we're gonna stick with the order still.
Okay.
That was my bad, sorry.
Yeah. Well, what about Robert?
If he's not here by the time we're done with David, then maybe we'll
Okay.
put him last.
Yeah, we'll do David first. And Jane.
Yeah, just because he's here. And then-
Jane, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we're gonna go with our original lineup because we got our technical difficulties straightened out. We're gonna have David Long. He's gonna be our next interviewee. And then you'll still be after him. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. I've been sitting here since 5:30, so I'm game for anything.
Okay, thank you for your patience. We appreciate it.
Oh, no, that's part of the game.
Yeah, we have to be flexible here. Thank you. Okay, ready? Okay, we're going to reconvene our special workshop meeting. We're interviewing candidates for a city council vacancy. Our next interviewee would be David Long. David, would you like to go up to the podium and introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Mayor. My name is David Long. I've lived in Cortez for a little more than 30 years. I came here to work on a newspaper, which then was the Montezuma Valley Journal and the Cortez Sentinel, or I may have it backwards. But I worked there for about 20 years. My first beat when I worked at the newspaper was city government. And so I covered city government for about 10 years and got to know the staff and pretty much how it works. And it was a real education. I got to know Linda and some of the other people that were working here then. Billy Smart was mayor and Roger Smith was on the council. He was my first landlord. I rented a house from him. And so Cortez just really pretty much grew on me. I didn't expect to stay here forever when I came, but planning on being here, for the rest of my life. One thing I wanted to mention was I was sorry to hear about Sue Betts passing. She was a Cortez cop when I first knew her, and she was a good cop and council person. I was served one term on the city council, I think from 2000 to 2004, something around then. And there were a couple of things that I helped get done. One was to get the speed limit lower between the parks. It was just 30 miles an hour, and there's a lot of kids running back and forth after they developed the park. And now they have put up the signs, and when they're flashing, people know to slow down. But I like to think it made it a little bit safer. Another thing was there was a plan to improve downtown. It was the retail district, and it was going to put some really burdensome requirements on the downtown business people, and that wasn't adopted, and I worked to keep that from being adopted. So those are the two things that I remember from being on the council. I'm now retired. I'm co-owner of the Free Pass. I think I mentioned in my letter of interest that we don't cover a lot of city issues, but if I were chosen to be on the council, I would recuse myself from anything that involved the paper. I guess that's about all I have to say. I can't read my writing that well, but that's pretty much it. I do consider Cortez my hometown. I would just like to help keep it the great place it is to live.
Thank you, David. We're going to ask you a few questions now, and we'll start with Amy. Amy, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. David, do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with for council?
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I'm retired. I do some writing and work at the newspaper. That's certainly not full time, but other than that, I would have whatever time is required.
Thank you. David, do you have a question?
Yes.
Thank you, Amy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. David, from David. It sounds like you've had the experience, but tell us about specific training in municipal leadership and your team building skills, and how would you use those to work for the city council?
Well, when I was elected to city council, I went to a 2-day, it was a bunch of workshops in, I think it was Breckenridge, and got some training there, and just in 4 years of being on the council, I think, I learned a lot about not always getting your way, and not always getting the whole pie, and learning to just cooperate with 6 other people to get anything done.
Okay. Rachel?
David, how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
I'm just with respect for other people. I don't use social media that much myself, but I just don't think people should engage in personal attacks or make accusations that are unfounded, or even if they're, I just don't think it should be used as a way of getting back at people or diminishing people. That's one reason I'm not a big fan of it, just the way it has come to be used.
Orly, do you have a question?
Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
Oh, yeah, I watched them online. I haven't attended that many in person lately, but, I do see them, televised and, fairly regularly. I watch all of them, but if there's an issue that I think is important, I watch them.
All right, thank you.
David, what is your experience with large budgets?
Well, other than, the city budget, when I was a city councilman, not that much, that's pretty much it. Budget at the Free Press is very small and, I never had a job where I did a lot with finances.
Okay. Okay, David, what is your most valuable trait as a leader or director? Most valuable trait?
Well, I think it would be honesty and being honest with people in a way that isn't offensive to them if I disagree with them.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself, David?
I just, whatever the outcome of your process is, I really appreciate the people that do serve on city council. And think it's a great place to live. And like I said, I'd like to help keep it that way.
Okay.
And I think when I guess one of the things, I also covered crime and the police when I was working at the Journal, and I think a lot of people that live here don't fully appreciate how good a police force and how safe a place this town is to live. Because I've lived in quite a few other places, and it's just a very safe and secure environment to live in.
The Free Press publishes the police reports, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, I read the incident reports and keep up with what they're doing, and it's a lot of times a really thankless job, but I think our police force does it very well.
Okay. Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is Robert here yet?
I think I saw him out there, but I could be wrong, but I didn't follow us.
Okay.
Somebody else wondering.
Oh, yeah, that's Robert. Yeah.
Yep, he's here.
Okay.
Oh, he's leaving.
Uh-oh. So what time is our agenda scheduled? 8:45? Okay, and we can't start that early, correct?
Nope.
Okay.
What was the answer to that question?
8:45.
No, we have to wait till 8:45 to start that.
Good evening, Robert.
Yeah.
Okay. We're running a little ahead of schedule, but if you're ready, we're ready for you. You'd like to go up to the podium and introduce yourself?
You can take it off. Just no sneezing.
Good evening, Council. Robert Reedy, in Cortez since 2003. Ready for your questions or?
Just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself? And then we'll ask you the questions after you're finished introducing yourself.
Well, I've asked myself the question, why would I want to be back on council? I was on council years ago. I feel my business and sales experience, and most of my experience has been in education as a superintendent. I was division director of education for the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe for a number of years, and also worked as a career tech education director for a district in Arizona that had a couple high schools that were bigger than where Cortez High School is. So I know the importance of vocational. It's now it's career tech, yeah, it used to be vocational, but in bringing jobs and maintaining the workforce is an influence in whatever community you're in. And my answer to myself was, why do I want to be back on council? Well, I think that diverse background that I have would add value and enhance the council as a whole, to give some different perspectives on things. I also would like to promote economic development. When I was on the council, we brought the fiber in, and I knew the IT director over in Durango at the time, and we were ahead of them, is what he said. He said, well, you're way ahead of us bringing in all of this fiber. We built a vision that would entail would be jobs and enhance our local businesses and maybe bring jobs to the community. One of the visions I had was maybe in telemarketing, or in telemedicine, being able to do things from the office. I moved to Redwood City for a while, I came back, but in Durango, I noticed there was an ad in the paper quite a while back, and I was talking to Rick Smith. I said, looks like Durango not only taught us, but they bypassed us, and here's an ad for what I had envisioned we could be able to do. So anyway, I still believe that the fiber is a strong opportunity to bring in people in for economic development. That's just enough of a background at this point.
Thank you. We're going to ask you a series of questions, and we'll begin with Amy. Amy, would you like to ask the question?
Before we begin, will I have opportunity at the end to ask questions also?
Pardon?
Will I have an opportunity at the end to ask some questions also?
Normally we're not having the applicants ask questions. What do you think? Yeah.
We haven't had anybody else ask us
Yeah.
questions, so I don't know.
Has anybody asked to ask questions?
Well, I think it's in the protocol that we weren't taking questions. Otherwise,
I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it because I came 15
yeah.
minutes.
Isn't that correct, Cheryl? Do you have a copy of that?
Oh, yes. Oh, well, no questions from the public. Okay.
Yeah, it's not that we don't want to answer questions. We just want to keep it fair. The other applicants weren't expected to ask questions, so we're just keeping it the same.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll begin with Amy asking the first question.
Hi, Robert. Do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all other community meetings you may need to be involved with for council?
That's kind of the third aspect that I was asking myself the question of why we want to be on council. And the last time I had a full-time job, and it was a little demanding on my time. Now I'm mostly retired and I just work part-time, so I would have the available time to attend community events at any time during the day, evening. I'm used to evening meetings. I've been a superintendent and school board meetings, so evening meetings are no problem.
Okay. Thank you. David.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, David.
Tell us about any specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills that you might have. And if so, how will you use that training to work for the city council?
well, previous training I had has been while I was on city council, but also as a superintendent and a public employee, training from the State School Board Association, talking to, dealing with the public, interfacing with them, working collaboratively as a team member. And that's what I would see me doing on the city council, was being a part of a team. We're only individuals, but we make decisions as a team. And I'm also currently on planning and zoning, and we've gone through some trainings that have been put on here at the city. So I would see the fact that I come with no agenda, nothing hidden. I'm just here to try to help the city move forward, and I believe I'm a pretty good team player. And I guess that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
Robert, how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
Well, as a superintendent of schools, our attorney always advises us that we should just stay off social media and keep our comments to ourselves. And since I've always been a public leader, I guess my philosophy is I'm not going to get on there and put some comment that I shouldn't. Doesn't mean I'm not aware of social media and what goes on. I personally don't think it's a platform for me to use to get my point across one way or another.
Okay. Orly?
Have you attended or watched any of the city council meetings before?
Yes, I watched the last 3 or 4 and some of the work sessions. Hence, that's where my questions were going to come from, but since I can't ask questions, I watched the last 3 or 4, and some more than once. Some I rewound and watched parts again just to make sure I got the content correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Robert, what is your experience with large budgets?
I guess that's another strength that I would see myself bringing to the council. As a superintendent in smaller school districts, I had to do the budget and make sure that we stayed within our budget line items. The last time I was on the council, we always had a budget every year. We'd go through it. It's probably one of the more boring things to do, but it certainly can help the city manager out when he's trying to do his job. And especially if you have to make cuts, that's always painful. But I've had to develop school district-wide budgets. When I was the education director down in Toyah, we had our own budget we had to maintain. I had 55 employees at the time. The different departments, we had to make sure people were staying within their budget. When I was out as the career ed director, we had grants that we had to maintain, close to $1 million budget just for 2 high schools. So pretty extensive. I feel that's one of my strengths, is the financial aspect of things.
Robert, what is your most valuable trait as a leader or director?
I would say it's probably modeling what I expect of other people. And I think I try to inspire people to be their best. I know I'm thinking of staff members or teachers, and support them with professional development and training so that they can be the best that they can be. Just kind of get them up, get out of the way and let them do their job, so to speak. But I also believe collaboration is important, being able to work together with others. May not always see eye to eye, but we may not always agree, but we don't have to be disagreeable in the process.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to come before you, and it's my pleasure.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Robert.
when you plan on making some decision?
Okay, I was gonna make an announcement at the end, but I'll make it now. The appointment will be made on October 13th. It'll be our next council meeting. So,
As long as it's not a Friday.
no, it's not a Friday, 13th.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. So our next interviewee is Jane Wheeler, and she's on the Zoom meeting. Jane, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you. First off, I want to thank the council and thank you for all of your work. I also want to mention that it's, although we're all talking about being potential new council members, we should take a moment and mention Sue Betts. I know another gentleman mentioned her as well. I never met her, but from what I understand, she was a good person. Anyway, in terms of who I am and why I want this position, well, first off, as you can tell by my accent, I'm not from here. I grew up outside of Boston. I spent first 35 years of my life there. I left, as I said, when I was 35, and I still talk this way. So that's the way it is. I've spent the last 20 years as a college professor, and which I very much enjoyed. And I spent time on the Faculty Senate and the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. Both of those, from my perspective, are very similar to being on City Council. Our job was to figure out what the students and the faculty preferred to have happen. And then we would meet with the president of the university, trying to get his take on things. And a lot of times we were negotiating with the students and with the faculty, with the other faculty, with the staff, everything. And so it was a very similar kind of experience to being a council member. I also spent time teaching and research, and my doctorate is in organizational behavior. I don't mean to step on your question, David, but in terms of team building and leadership, those are the things that I taught. So I think I have that area pretty well covered. And one thing that I spend time doing, one of the areas that I was focused on is on boundary spanning, basically learning how to sit on the boundary between different groups. And in doing that, I understand the importance of reaching across the aisle and listening to what they have to say. So anyway, because of my teaching experience, my research experience, I've done a fair amount of traveling, but even since I was a child, I've always been captivated with the West. And so it's no surprise that I have chosen to live here in Cortez. I've only been here for about a year, but I gotta tell you, it really is home. And so it's because of that, finding a place that I'm passionate about and because of my prior skill set, that I think I would be a good council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. We have some questions we'd like to ask you. Amy, would you like to begin?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jane, how are you? Do you have the time for the extra evening meetings and all the other community meetings you may need to be involved with council?
Actually, I've been listening to you ask that question of others. And each time I heard you ask it, the first thing that came up for me is, I look forward to it. This is something that it's been a fairly well thought out decision that I have made, that I'm sitting here. I've had and I don't mean to step on your question, Orly, but I've listened to a few prior Zoom meetings, and I like what I see. And so I look forward to getting to know you all. I look forward to meeting other people in the community. So yes, I will make the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. David, would you like to add anything to your question, since she's already answered parts of it?
David, you have to turn the microphone on. David, turn the microphone on, David. Thank you.
I'd be delighted.
No, you still can't hear you.
In lieu of you're answering my question, I won't be so redundant as to ask it, but I would like to say thank you for your patience. I know you've waited a long time, and we appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I was looking at the list of candidates, and as to be expected, you assigned the speaking time alphabetically. And I've learned over time, when you have a last name that begins with W, you wait.
So you have experience.
Yes.
I have
Okay,
no further questions.
no further questions. Okay, Rachel, I don't think she's answered any of your questions yet.
No.
Go ahead.
Okay, Jane, how do you feel council members should conduct themselves on social media?
Actually, this is something I learned the hard way. And it really isn't just social media. Back when I first was a college professor, I was going to a local town fair, and somebody parked in front of, somebody took my parking space. They came zooming through and parked right where I was about to park. And I found myself, I was furious. I was gonna take this guy to town. As I was getting ready to do something not nice, I realized that I was a new professor in town and that I needed to behave myself. And so that's really my approach when it comes to being in public, whether it be social media or just walking the streets of Cortez. We have to maintain a certain level of decorum or professionalism. We represent the city. So that's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Orly, Jane's already mentioned that she's watched numerous city council meetings. Do you have any other questions, Orly?
I don't think I can say thank you.
Okay. Okay. Arlena.
Jane, what is your experience with large budgets?
Actually, that's an interesting question. Back before I became a college professor, I was back in Boston working at New England Telephone. And one of the jobs I had, part of my title was staff director, what is it, staff director, human resource and budget administration. And so I was involved with budget. I also, more recently, I'm part of a nonprofit and I'm the finance manager, these kinds of things. But I gotta tell you, to be honest with you, my experience with large budget, I know enough to know that we need to have someone in there who does it for a living. I can talk the talk if I need to, but my focus has always been about leadership, teamwork, these types of things. So I don't profess to be an expert when it comes to budgets. I was watching you last week in your, I think at your last meeting, whatever, and you had the gentleman here talking about the city council budget. And it was fascinating, but I gotta tell you, I was glad he was talking, because to understand it to the level that he does, not me. Anyway, so that's my answer.
Thank you. Okay, Jane, what is your most valuable trait as a leader or director?
Well, that's another one I've been thinking about since 5:30. And I'm not saying this to be facetious, but I really think listening is my top trait, so to speak. I take the time to understand what the other person is trying to say, even if it's a comment or an understanding that I totally do not agree with. And as a college professor, especially at a public university, it was important for me to not allow my personal views to seep out into the classroom. So I became really good, and I continue to be really good at listening to what people were saying and try to see it from their perspective. So that's what I would say. I mean, that's some of the other things that I heard the other candidates talk about, a lifelong learner, these types of things. Absolutely. But I think for me, my top trait is listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. We appreciate your being interviewed for this position. And any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Jane. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, this concludes our interview period. As I mentioned before, the appointments will be made on the next council meeting, October 13th. And that's not a Friday. We'll be we'll be reviewing the interviews again, and we'll make our decision at that date. I'd like to remind all this, the reason we're having these interviews is because there's a vacancy in the city council. Several of you have mentioned Sue Betts. And I'm very sad that Sue's not with us anymore. I've had a personal relationship with Sue for 30 years. When I moved to Cortez 30 years ago, I was a letter carrier and she's a police officer, and I would deliver her mail. And I'd walk by her house, same house she lived in 30 years ago, and her dogs would bark at me and the birds would be making a racket and everything. And I'd talk to her, and we became very good friends. And she ran for council at the same time I did. I went through, I was doing campaigning door to door, and she came to the door one time, and we always maintained that great friendship. And she is that type of person. She loved her children, she loved her grandchildren, took so much care of them. She loved her dogs and birds, and she was a credit to the police department. She was a credit to Cortez. She's the credit to the city council, and she is sorely missed. So I'd like to have a moment of silence in remembrance of Sue Betts. Thank you all. Thank you for attending this special meeting of the City Council Workshop hybrid meeting. I call this meeting to adjourn, reminding that October 13th, the appointments will be made as a result of these interviews. Thank you. Good night. The regular council meeting will begin at 8:45 as scheduled.